learn how to separate you, the character, from you, the person.
Hi, Stephen. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. I'm excited to talk to you about this show. I was just watching the first few episodes and I'm like in awe. This was not what I was expecting.
Oh, good. In what way? How's that?
Well, because it's a family show with the backdrop of wrestling, I thought the focus was going to be much more on the wrestling.
Right.
So, but
Yeah, no, what I've tried to explain to a lot of people is that it's like, yeah, think of it like the if the show's a cake, right? Wrestling is the icing, not
exactly.
the cake. The family dynamic is the cake. So I really enjoy hearing that. I was just being asked, like, how do you gauge audience reaction? And one of the ways that I gauge audience reaction is what sort of questions are the press asking, or what are they saying? And if you're saying, I was pleasantly surprised by the amount of family dynamic, that means we're probably doing the right thing because that's what was important.
Well, and that was one of the things that I wanted to ask you because this must have been such fun to work on because it's a show as an actor, because it's a show that the dramatics are incredibly well written, but you also
Yes.
have this physical part. So, what was the most challenging or fun to work on this project? Because it's a very well written show, I have to say.
Well, the drama, no, I mean, look, the drama was much more challenging, and I'll let Mike Waldron and Mike O'Malley know that you appreciate the writing. But the drama is much more difficult. When it came time to do the wrestling and the physical stuff, especially because Jack's demeanor when he's in the ring is so demonstrative and stuff like that. Like, a lot of times with that, a lot of it was ad-libbing. It was like, I knew that I needed to get a point across, but, you know, Pete Siegel, the director, and Michael Malley, our showrunner, were like, Steven, just go out and start insulting the crowd. Right. Like, I don't know if you saw it up to episode 3, but you'll notice, as I'm walking to the ring, someone's just got like a bag of popcorn and I like pop it up and like shove it in their face and stuff like that. That's all that stuff is ad-libbed. Whereas, the family dynamics, you've got to make sure when you start a show that you that your character is fully cooked by the time we see him, right? It's not as though in that first episode when we're getting an opportunity to make a first impression that I can like dip my toe in the water and try things out. No, I've got to be prepared with a backstory. Where's Jack from? What's his relationship like with Ace? What do you think his relationship was like with his dad? What's the dynamic with his mom? What's he like as a dad himself? How's his relationship with Stacy? How long have they been together? Is he pissed at Wild Bill? What's his stuff like with Willie? You got to think about all of that stuff and make a really clear choice. So that's always a little scary and daunting because you never know until you actually get a chance to do it.
And now, one thing that I found very interesting about the way the show is written, and especially about Jack, is that both of you, like both the leads, right? Jack plays the bad guy on stage. He's the
Right.
heels, but he's in his everyday life. He strives to be the good guy. He tries to be a good father. He tries to
Yeah.
be a good husband. He tries to be a good businessman. But as an actor, it must be fun to be able to kind of like bring those two sides, the villain and the hero, at the same for the same show with the spectrum of the same character. How was
Yeah.
that for you?
Oh, it was a blast. It's like it it very much is. There's a curtain that you walk through, right? And when you walk through it, it just changes. And even in the first episode, we meet Jack in the ring, and he's Jack Spade, DWL champion, top heel in the company. And the moment that he gets back through the curtain, it's in service of Big Jim, and it's thinking about the dynamics of the show, and it's the fog machine's broken, it's this and it's that, and then it's all of the things. He's the boss in the DWL, and he's in charge when he's out there in front of the crowd, and everywhere else, it's like he's constantly worried that he's falling short. So it's a really fun character to play. And we're meeting him you know, he hasn't been in charge of the DWL that long. So, you know, I really view this, if we're lucky enough to, you know, to get a second season and to tell more of this story, this first season really is like a prologue or a first chapter of a story.
Now, you know, you're very known in Brazil because of Arrow. So,
Mhm.
uh, when we see Jack right in the first few minutes, we already notice that he's not perfect. And like coming from this background where you play a hero, like in the classical sense, from the comic books with a fan base and whatnot, how do you see the audience, like, how do you expect the audience will react when they see Jack, this character that has all this huge spectrum of different qualities and you know, downsides, and it's learning and it's not perfect? How do you see that that's going to play with your already, you know, fan base?
Well, I mean, first thing, let's just get them to watch. Okay. Just let them know, tell people to watch. I don't know when it's coming out in Brazil, but you know, August 15th at 9 p.m. on Stars. So let's do that first. And you know, what I would say to everybody is, like, it's not that different than a superhero show. It's kind of a superhero show, actually, right? Like, the wrestlers, their in-ring personas are their superhero or supervillain characters. I mean, just think about Jack. Like, you see him walking around in jeans and a t-shirt and work boots, but then when it's time to go out to the ring, he changes into his superhero suit, puts his trunks and his boots and his vest and his belt and, you know, his baby oil and stuff like that on. You know, it's I mean, we even got a guy in a mask. We got Diego Cottonmouth in a mask. So just, you know, just think of it like a superhero show.
Now, I know that these scenes, especially the fighting scenes, that your fans are probably gonna love them. They're highly choreographed. Sorry, my English. And how was the rehearsal process for these scenes? Because this is our last question, so it has to be a good one. How was the rehearsal process for these fight scenes? And as well, were there any like funny moments that you can tell, like funny accidents that might have happened?
I wouldn't say there were any funny accidents, but to get to the first part of your question, you know, from a choreography standpoint, you know, wrestling is a little bit more loosely choreographed than, say, what we were doing on Arrow, when it was very, very intricate, but also because we were like swinging weapons and stuff like that. What we're trying to show, and sort of pulling back the curtain for wrestling fans and non-wrestling fans alike, is that you communicate with your partner in the ring. You communicate with your partner, and you communicate with the referee. So, you know, in a lot of ways, what we were doing shooting it wise is, there was one segment that I can think of where we had it was like 12 or 15 moves. But even when we're doing a big segment like that, I'm calling out, it's the heel's job to call out what's happening in the ring, right? So, you know, like at one point in time, I get Alexander down his back, and, you know, as I'm in the ring, as a character, I'm going, give me your back, you're getting the big arm, right? Like, I'm calling out what is happening, right? Like, or it's time to get up, Ace. So stuff like that. And the only funny thing is that there is a match at a certain point where another wrestler gets mad at me while we're in the ring and starts beating me up for real. And the only way to really do that, to make the audience and the fans that are in attendance, to make them sort of sit back and go, uh-oh, something seems weird here, was for us we were safe. And obviously you don't want to ever like land a punch because you break a knuckle or something like that. But we needed to be safe and know what we're doing, but be pretty rough and tumble with each other. Mm-hmm. And the only reason it was funny is because after the take, everyone rushed to the ring because they almost yelled cut a couple of times because they thought that we were actually fighting.
Oh my gosh. Well, I've seen that scene and it's great. I can't.
No, it's a different scene.
Okay, because I've seen like until episode 4, I think. But
okay,
it's a great show. Congratulations. Thank you so much for doing this interview, and I look forward to seeing more of the show.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
We could